Hello everyone, this is Eric, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Confession of Murder, a Korean thriller action movie from 2012 that stars Jung Jae-young from Castaway on the Moon, Park Shi-hoo from The Princess's Man K-drama, and Jo Eun-ji from The Villainess. So Choi, played by Jung Jae-young, is a detective who is in charge of hunting down a serial killer who claimed the lives of 10 women from 1986 to 1990, and whom Choi suspects is responsible for the kidnapping and possible murder of another. He managed to hunt down the killer, but lost him after a fierce fight that left Choi nearly dead and permanently scarred. Before the killer vanished, however, Choi managed to shoot him in the shoulder. Now, 15 years later, when the statute of limitations expires on this high-profile series of murders, a handsome and mysterious young man emerges with a tell-all book taking credit for the crimes. And as he seduces the media into following him to book signings and televised debates, the officer who hunted him falls deeper into obsession, and the victims' families plot their own revenge. So there's a lot going on in this one. So the opening scene, our protagonist cop is sitting at a table in a restaurant. He's drinking some soju. And immediately, we get a crazy scene transition into a fight that occurred in that very same restaurant before. Even during this opening scene, there's an elevated sense of action present. You know, the fighting is pretty intense. There's a slightly unrealistic vibe to it, which we'll get to in a minute. And then we get some pretty cool camera work that follows these guys as they roll over cars and jump off of buildings in the rainstorm. Really good stuff to open the film. A very solid way to kind of start a film like this. Most people who watch this movie agree that the opening 10 minutes are pretty cool. But then we quickly start seeing signs of what is likely the most divisive aspect of Confession of Murder. This movie has tonal shifts. And I know some viewers will say, hey Eric, Korean filmmakers are known for this kind of thing. Is it even worth mentioning at this point? And to that question, I would say yes. Because in this particular case, these different elements and genres are not as smoothly blended together as something like A Memories of Murder or most of Bong Joon-ho's films. So Confession of Murder was directed by Jung Byung-gil, and he creates some whiplash when the tones actually shift. Now, there are two make-or-break moments for most viewers who watch this film. The first one occurs fairly early on, and it's a scene where a snake kind of flies off. I can't remember if it flies off of a tree or the ground. I think it was off of a tree. And the snake flies off to attack someone, and it's killed by a crossbow arrow shot. Alright, when that scene happens, you get an unrealistic feel to it. There's some CG effects for the snake, and such a shot in real life would be so difficult to pull off. Feels a little awkward. But the big WTF moment, unquestionably, is the absolutely crazy ambulance car chase. It's completely nuts. And it gets to the point where we have people trying to kill each other on top of the actual cars and vehicles while they're driving down a highway. You know what I mean? So it's nuts. All right. So when you get to that scene, if you enjoy that scene while you're watching the film, you'll be just fine for the rest of the film. On the other hand, if that scene annoys you or infuriates you, you're going to have trouble getting through the rest of this movie. Personally, I love that scene. It's a lot of fun. But I really think that Confession of Murder is like a great example of how Korean-style shifting of tones can result in an extremely entertaining movie, even if there's some awkwardness left in how it shifts between genres. Because this has plentiful moments of excitement. You get serious drama mixed in. You get up-tempo action, a little bit of humor. And it does later on eventually develop some of the main characters. And there are some truly exciting moments in this film, I think. there are also some very serious and dramatically disturbing moments. Like I said, this film's kind of all over the place in terms of tone. It's fun, and then it gets really serious and kind of disturbing. You know, it's one of those. But because it's action heavy and has some unrealistic elements to it, it creates that inconsistent feel. You know what I mean? So, but still, with all of that said, I think this is a massively entertaining movie that moves at a blistering pace. I mean, this is like 2 hours long. You don't feel it in this film. Never gets boring at any point, even during like the non-action, non-thriller stuff. Like there are some television debates between the cop and the bad guy, and there's some of the best scenes in the movie. The plot developments during the second half are interesting. The more dramatically intense and disturbing stuff is kind of saved for like the middle section, and you will want to see this killer get taken down after you see that stuff, so it's effective. And that makes this, like the thriller-based action finale, even more exciting and fun. There's a scene, probably the most exciting scene of the movie, in my opinion, is a scene in an elevator, where like a good guy and a bad guy finally face off for the first time in the film. And I don't know, man, there's something about that scene that gets me really excited. So this movie has like a lot of layers to it. It's a little bit inconsistent, but it works so well. And on top of all that, there are some genuinely interesting themes. Like, I love how the cop has to protect the villain of the film at certain points, all in the name of serving justice. Because like I mentioned in the plot synopsis, the family members of the people this guy killed go after him. And this cop, in some cases, has to protect him to preserve the law. You know what I mean? Because they can't prosecute him anymore, so he's technically off the hook, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic there. I really liked it. This film also touches upon hybristophilia, which is when people become sexually attracted to violent criminals. And this bad guy in this movie who writes the book and talks about how he, killed these women, he earns a massive fan base in the film of young girls who create a fan club for him. It's pretty crazy. And he becomes a celebrity despite admitting to committing murder. And this actually happens in real life. If you look at like serial killers and stuff like that, they usually end up getting fan clubs of women primarily, which is quite odd. And there's actually a Japanese example of this. There was a Japanese celebrity actor who appeared in the Hisayasu Sato film The Bedroom back in 1992. And you're wondering, how exactly did this actor, his name was Issei Sagawa, get any type of celebrity recognition? Well, he killed a woman in France and got away with it due to various technicalities. Like, that's the only reason why this guy became an actor celebrity in Japan. And this is in real life, folks. So this film has some pretty interesting themes and issues that it explores throughout that are more relevant to real life than you might think on its surface. So, yeah, there's some really interesting stuff in this. So I think, Confession of Murder is one of those movies where I think most people would probably like it. But again, if you're someone who needs like that consistent tone throughout, or you need a director who's so talented he can really blend it together, you might not be into this. But there's something about the blend of like the cartoonish action, like gritty thriller, disturbing drama, you know what I mean? All that, a little bit of comedic elements to it. It just makes this so much fun to watch for me. And if you could just go with it, this movie's really entertaining. So Confession of Murder is currently available streaming and on physical media. It's free to watch on Tubi right now, so you could check it out that way. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one. And as always, I will see you next time.